and welcome to Studio 12. Today's society is facing many challenges, from economic, social to environmental. And there are many perspectives and views how to cope with, think about and see these challenges. Today we are interested in Theosophical perspective on the matter. And joining us today in the studio is Ms. Tran Thi Kim Diu, a chairperson of European Federation of Theosophical Society. Welcome. To start with, what is your personal view on current global situation? Do you see it as an overall crisis, or do you see it also as an opportunity for new ways of thinking, new ways of being?
You see, I think that we have to start with the individuals. It is quite fashionable to say it is the global crisis. But the crisis is deep down buried or manifested in the human soul. We cannot see it from a global view and say it is a global crisis. Why we are conscious of this? Because the consequences have become visible, manifest, not as in the past. But this crisis is the crisis of a human consciousness trying to catch with the current, the stream of natural, universal evolution of consciousness. It has to cope with it because it is a kind of turning point. Turning point in the sense that the human soul, the human beings do have a kind of destiny. And generally, they are not aware of that. They ignore their destiny. So they have invented all kinds of things to fulfill the very various, very generally petty desires. And they forgot the real, noble, vast, immense destiny, not only on Earth, but in the whole cosmos. Now the crisis, which people usually call global crisis, it is a crisis in that consciousness. And for the time being, it manifests itself on all fields. You have culturally, education is always a matter in crisis. In every country, you will not find one without a problem of education. So it is the cultural aspect. Now there is another aspect, which is the aspect very trivial, but this aspect regulates many things of the earthly life. It is the economy. And we are now in the crisis, financial crisis. But all these have the same origin, at the core of it, the same reason. It is the reason of the human being not accepting to be less egoistic. This is a kind of two movements. You have one movement completely self-centered and an open movement. Now, in this movement of self-centered, human beings try to gather everything and forget the surrounding, the people. Even they love people, but it does not prevent them from being egoistic. You see, because in this trend of thinking, a trend of consciousness, it is me who will come first and then the other next, but not the other first and me the last. So we have now the turning point correspond to this movement in the consciousness or the mind, because after all the mind is just a particular condition of consciousness. So this turning point corresponds to this movement, which is the reverse movement. Reverse in the sense that instead of doing this movement as a kind of consciousness falling into a funnel and close itself in the bucket, and you glue the bucket, you screw with a very solid lid, so you emphasize, I am me, others out the bucket. Now consciousness comes to the point that you have to reverse the thing, otherwise everyone will die in his or her own bucket. Now the reverse thing is to take out the lid, unscrew everything and leave it open, meaning that there's an awareness of the others, not only of yourself. First the others, you look at the relationship as in the mirror, and you realize that you are somewhere, but not as you think you are or you were. So this is the starting point for self-transformation. Self-transformation is the basic point to transform everything and to get out of global crisis, because we have to cure the cause and not only the symptoms. You see, as in therapies, you have either you just treat the symptoms and the disease will come back sooner or later, and you treat another time the symptoms and disease is still there. So all the crises we have seen originate from the human selfishness, and if we don't cure it, it will take another form, ever and ever, another form, and more serious. Anytime it will be more serious, because there is a bigger discrepancy between evolutional process which takes place naturally and the person here, the human beings, opposing this current, like putting a brake on the current. So it will become worse and worse. People talk about crisis in the past. If you are a bit interested with history, you can see that the crisis we are undergoing now is much worse. Much, much worse. Because people are now aware of the background. Not in the past. They are more ignorant. They just underwent it as kind of victims. Now it is worse, because if we don't react by deciding that we change and take the reverse turn in our own living, then it will be worse, because it is like we are consciously participating to make the crisis worse. Do you understand? Meaning that with the understanding, we are more responsible. And if we don't want to participate to resolve the crisis by resolving the crisis in ourselves, we are more than responsible, more guilty in the whole process of the crisis. Okay?
So you're talking about reversing our awareness, our perspective from self-centeredness to be more compassionate towards others and to cooperate. Where do we start? How does individual start doing that? If we had a trend, self-centeredness for the whole period of time until now.
You see, when people and students ask me the question, when will be the best moment to start? My answer is at once. When you start to ask the question, it is the best moment to start. Because there is an openness of consciousness to ask questions. Where is it? Why is it? How is it that I'm in such a situation? If you don't take it at once, then it will slip away out of your hands. And then all the habits come back. And it is a kind of, not life, it is a routine, taking care of itself. From birth, you grow up as a child, a teenager, you went to schools, various ones. If you have the curiosity of learning and knowing, then you learn a lot of things. And now it is a big expansion, because you have this powerful means of the internet. Anytime you want to get to knowledge, you have it. Okay? If you have the will to get it, you get it. It is not like in the past. You have to go through many efforts, many solutions of things to get to the knowledge. Now, instantaneous, you have the techniques. So, the answer is at once. Because if you have this awareness that there is something there on the waiting to be done, and you don't participate, this is serious. You see, where to start? At once with your own consciousness. How to start? The how I will not answer, because it does not apply universally to everyone. To the question how to start, I would answer start, and you will find out the how.
Okay.
Because you cannot apply a method to know yourself. You will know yourself if you will. Meaning that when you use the word awareness, it is halfway, because the term awareness, if we are accurate, the word awareness should apply only when attention is total. So when attention is total, one cannot abstain from the seeing and just continue to do things by habit, by routine, by, well, I am like that, you have to accept me like that, and I will not change. This is the worst situation that you could meet. And generally speaking, it is the situation people try to keep, because it gives this sense of security, false security. You see, security in the sense that there is a kind of rhythm, very regular, you just follow it and that's it. So we should avoid that. If we really want to solve the crisis, solve the problem of the human mind, because all is there in the human mind, not in the society, not in the country, not in China, not in America, not in Europe. The crisis in the human consciousness.
What, in your opinion, would mean that the crisis is solved? You
want to know the results before doing the effort to do it.
Yes, this is the question.
You see, this is really speculation. It is like you ask me, tell me a few things about paradise. I can't. Paradise is everyone's mind condition. So what is the use of telling stories? I know that many authors, many speakers, many individuals would like to tell stories because they either make fun of the people, the listeners, or they also play a game where they take some pleasure by inventing things. I will not do it.
Okay.
I will not do it. Yeah. So the question, what will happen when we will have solved the crisis? Just solve it, and you will see what happens.
Okay. So you are saying that we should focus on the process of asking the question and doing it right now, and then we'll see what will happen.
Just do it.
Just do it.
First understand and see that we have some part to play, and just play it. You see, play it, and don't ask how I'm going to play. It is like an orchestra. Now it is far from being a symphony. It is everything, a kind of discord everywhere. It is no longer harmony. There is no longer this kind of fundamental harmony based on this rare, precious quality of the mind, which is silence. Because you cannot have any harmony without silence on the background. It is a kind of cacophony. Everyone wants to express, everyone to say, everyone wants to hold the truth. as a kind of belonging. Yeah. So this principle, which is the freedom, which is the basis of consciousness. Consciousness is always free. You cannot put it in the box, you cannot put it in a bucket, screw the lid on it, and you say, here is my truth. No. What you have understood is just what you can attain to this absolute freedom, absolute truth. Nobody can hold it, and nobody can take it as a belonging of himself or herself, as a kind of, or nobody can neither profess it as a kind of dogma. Since there is a kind of idea of dogmatization, fanatization about any ideas about truth, this person is insulting truth, insulting freedom. And nobody in the human community should accept this.
Mm-hmm. Okay. You were talking about the truth. Dogmatism. Let us include power structures in this image, right?
Yeah.
So you said before we should play the game, right? The game of life, and we should get out of our comfort zone.
Out of our
comfort zone. You know, we're comfortable in some zone.
Yes.
We don't like to
our
change.
Comfort.
Yeah, our
and
comfort.
Routine. Yeah.
Okay. And then we have some structures from the past, let's say economic institutions, religious institutions, who would like to maintain the current dogmas, way of thinking. How should individuals, cope with that? So we have the old paradigm and the new paradigm.
Yes. Well, you see, at every epoch of time, you have this kind of tendency to maintain things as they are, not to move, and it is. You mentioned the term powers. For me, power is one aspect of life. It is the practical manifestation of energy. Now, corruption comes to the picture when somebody will take this power to have the influence over the people for her or his own interest. This is the same problem of egoism, isn't it? Power is not the problem. The problem is egoism. Because we can see that you cannot avoid power. You cannot avoid it. Because it is one aspect of life manifested. First start with the sound, energy, vibrations to organize things. The power is inside to organize things. It is not diverted by one person's use. Now, all you have watched on our planet here, very often, not all the places, well, thank God, fortunately. Now, but in many places, leaders have misused the power. The power itself is not the problem. The problem is the misuse of it. So how is it that they misuse the power? As I told, the root of the problem is selfishness, egoistic behavior, thinking, action. And how is it? It is because of lack of wisdom, lack of insight. And what is insight and what is wisdom? This is the next question we have to ask ourselves. For what purpose we are on earth? For what purpose we are granted a human body, a human mind, the power of thinking. It is the real power. And we don't use it in a very good way because we misuse it to misuse in applying it to exploit people, but not in the sense of cooperation. In the sense of let's work together. Last time we talked about cooperation. We say if we don't look at the drawbacks of each other, we can go very far, because everyone has drawbacks. No one is perfect. But in between the imperfections, you can manage and you can go further. It is not that you don't have a perfect, ideal car that you have to drive, to go on the road. You use what you have, and you have the help of the others, and it is the same. Okay? So cooperation is absolutely fundamental, crucial in this time.
How to cooperate? Because before you were talking about how individual has to start, right? And developing his own wisdom, inner awareness. But don't we need any structure, to cooperation on the larger scale? Should we just do it everybody on our own?
Start with ourselves, each one for ourselves, because you see, our drawback of all of us is to rely upon institutions to make society change. It is not wise, because whenever you invent an institution, you put all your projections in it, and you would say, let the institution do it for me. As in the human society, it is the society and the human society's fault. No, you are the society, I am the society. You are the word, I am the word. And what is it, the word? It is your own projection, because you don't want to take up your responsibility. You say, the world and society should do it for me. No, I am part of it and I am the word. So let me do it. On my part, I do not have the pretension to save the whole world, but I am the word. If I don't do it, it would be absurd to expect that the word will do it for me.
Be the change you want to see in the world?
Sorry?
To be a change you want to see in the world, like Gandhi said?
Yes, if you want to change the world, change yourself. Start with oneself. And at once, when we ask the question, now we cannot say, okay, I see it, but then I will do it next year. Yeah, meaning tomorrow. Tomorrow will be always tomorrow, because tomorrow there will be another tomorrow.
Okay, one personal question. What do you stand for in the world and in your life?
Me?
Yeah,
personally?
Yes.
A passerby.
Sorry?
A passerby.
A passerby.
A witness.